In this video, we're going to do a little bit of linear regression in the calculator. Now, you'll want to start a new document. In the interest of time, I already started a document, so I'm going to click Current. If you start a new document, when the calculator asks you what type of page you want first, option 4 is for lists and spreadsheets. So I already have some data in my spreadsheet. In the first column, we have some years, and in the second column, we have the population of a certain county. So you type your data. I just wanted to do that beforehand. Now, if you're going to do anything with these data in the calculator, you have to give a name to this column. So I'm going to call this column X's. I'm going to call this column Y's because I'm not very creative. Now, when you're naming these columns, don't just use the letter X or the letter Y because that's going to mess up naming variables later on. So this is just your initial setup for a regression problem. After that, we're ready to do some calculations. So you want to add a new page to this document that's above the dock button in blue. So press Control Dock. And this time we want a calculator. So we're actually doing a little bit of statistics right now. So when you press Menu, it's option 6 for statistics. This is just a basic stat calculation, so option 1. And option 3 should look familiar because it says mx plus b, which looks like the equation of a line. So we're going to use option 3 for linear regression. This is why we had to name our columns earlier. I called my list of x values x's and my list of y value y's. And it's typically a good idea to save this regression equation. The default is going to be F1 unless you already have something stored in F1, and then it would store it in F2 and so on. In an algebra or pre-calc class, you're probably not going to need the next few options, but in statistics you might. So just press OK, and you can see the equation of our regression line. Y equals mx plus b. M is equal to about 797, and B is a very large negative number. I guess it's negative 1.3 million or so. Now, you can already do some calculations using this regression line. So if you go back to the data, we had some dates, 1970, 1980, 1990, 2000, and we were talking about populations. When we did our calculation, we stored that regression equation in F1. So I can answer a simple question like, what would I expect the population to be in 2005? And then I just evaluate this function at the year 2005. So I plug in the x value 2005. If you press enter, according to our model, in 2005, the population would be 287,000 or so. Now, in our data, at the year 2000, the population was 294,000. So a question might be, well, when would you expect the population to reach a certain level? So let's say we want to ask, well, when would the population be 350,000? That's asking, when would that function have a value of 350,000? Now, I can't press enter right now because this is not going to do anything, but that's an equation that I want to solve. Well, our calculator has a built-in solve feature. So if I press menu, algebra, solve, I can type that equation. So I'm asking, when is my regression equation going to get to the value 350,000? Press comma x because we're trying to solve for x. Press enter. And if this model holds, which it probably wouldn't, but if this model were to hold, the population wouldn't reach 350,000 until the year 2083. So as soon as you find the regression line, you can automatically do some calculations pretty quickly. Now, if you actually want to see this data, since we named our function F1, that was the default setting when we used the linear regression command, if you add another new page to this document and add a graph, it's already going to have our regression equation stored in F1. So I just need to press enter to turn that on. Now, of course, I don't see anything because my x-axis is going from -10 to +10 and my y-axis from about -7 to +7. So I'm definitely going to have to change the window because we saw some really big numbers earlier. Now, I just like to change my window manually. So let's see. Our data started at 1970. I'll start a little bit to the left of that, maybe at 1950. We went up to 2000 in our data, so maybe I'll go to 2020. We're almost at 2020 anyway. Our population, let's see, went up to some pretty big numbers, 280 something thousand, I forget already. So let's just make our data go up to, I don't know, 300,000. Let's see if we can see our line now. So yeah, there's the regression line. Maybe I want to go up a little bit further if I want to see it. I can always change it later if I want to. So that's the regression line. But what if I want to see the data on top of the regression line? Because the whole idea with finding the equation of this line is it's the best possible line that goes through the middle of all your data points. So I can do that really easily. Press menu, and we're going to add a new graph. So we're going to go to graph entry. We're going to add a scatter plot. So this is asking me, what list are your x values in, and what list are your y values in? So earlier I named them x's and y's. Press enter to turn that graph on, and you can see your scatter plot. The key to note here, when you're making a new document in the Inspire calculator, these pages are all talking to each other. So when I named x's and y's in the very first page, I was able to use those when I did my regression, and I was able to use those in the graph. So all these pages are talking to each other, and you always want to keep that in mind whenever you're doing anything complicated in the calculator. So for my classes, Algebra 1, Pre-Cal, this is all we need. If you're taking a statistics class, then some of these other outputs in the regression are really useful. You can talk about the R value and the R squared value, and it's all really interesting. But for my classes, that's all we needed to do. So anyway, I just wanted to make a quick video. We'll see this again on our semester exams. So see you next time.